Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at crossing and finishing. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be looking at a pattern moving from a wide area to get in behind and then cut the ball back to finish. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So in terms of players this week, we're going to have a total of 13 players, one goalkeeper plus 12 outfield players. If you have two goalkeepers, you could just have two goals going. So then one team can work off one side and one team off the other, or you can just have the goalkeepers rotating. And then further into our different sequence and our small side of game, we can speak about how you can add another goalkeeper into there. Obviously, if you don't have a goalkeeper, you're working with a team which has got, your parents on the sideline or extra coaches try and throw somebody in goal just to make it more realistic for the players when that ball's coming into the box. In terms of the equipment for this week, we're focusing on just using balls, bibs and cones, and then if you do have poles or mannequins as well, you can put them in to make it quite realistic for the movement to get away from the defenders. In terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, what we're going to do from the goal line, okay, into the line here where it's all going to start off the same line, okay, you can move a couple of yards if you wanted to either side, okay, it's just going to be 30 yards. And then in terms of the width, we're going to go 10 yards between each gap, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, okay? If you have less width than that, then that's fine, okay, you can just bring it in a little bit, you can make a couple of passes, maybe just 5-yard passes instead. But if you do have that width that you can use, if you're working on a full size of a half a pitch, that would be perfect. So you're going to split the group into two groups of 6. Obviously, you don't have to put them into bibs if you don't want to, okay? But one side's going to be working off the left, one off the right, okay? So just focusing on moving the ball quite quickly, okay? To then getting behind, and then we're going to fizz the ball across for our player to score. So the ball will start in the start point here, okay? And it's going to be, this player will move out, okay, to receive it, okay? They're then going to set back to the start, okay, and then they're going to be timing their run. So as this ball gets played across to the next player here, who looks to pull out into space to receive it, we're starting to make this running behind. So it's like, if we've pulled out into space, then attack that space in behind. Then what we're looking at is this player to play one or two touch to play the ball in front for the player. This player here who's going to be as if it's our inside wide player to move onto the ball, and then they're looking to cut it back into a dangerous area where our striker here looks to spin off, the ball comes across the box, and then they look to finish. Okay, in terms of the movement, okay, the player at the start point becomes the player who's set in here, okay, so the second player to receive it. This player, once they've played in behind, becomes then the inside wide player, okay, so they'll be crossing it. The player who crossed makes their way to be the striker, and the striker goes to the back of the queue. Or you could have the striker going to the back of the opposite side, okay, so then the players can work off both sides, okay, by just swapping over after they've had a go finishing. So then we'll go from this side, and how it'll be is player moves out here again, touch back across, so we're looking to play first time into here. The movement here, okay, should be so that when the ball's coming towards them, they're moving off into space to be able to receive the ball and enable themselves to play first time, depending on the pass. Okay, playing behind, and we're focusing on this player at the time they run, so maybe starting at the back post to attack the front, okay, and also be able to maybe go central to then attack the back post. So we're focusing on this ball being played with pace, okay, and into an area for the attacker, okay, to then attack, penetrate, and then score. So again, the striker moves to the back, okay, the player who started moves into here to playing behind. This player who played in behind is the winger, okay, and the winger moves to be the striker. So you want your players to focus on moving that ball quite quickly, okay, their movement and timing of their runs as well, and then that clinical aspect in the final third with the crosses and then the finishes as well. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Okay, now moving into part 2 of this week's session. We're now going to focus on attacking the box as a front 3. Okay, so there's going to be 2 crosses coming in. So it's going to be focusing on working the ball through midfield first into a wide position. And then we're focusing on attack. And then the opposite side, okay, where the ball goes to. Once that play is finished, then getting the ball quickly into the box. So in terms of the setup, okay, what we're going to be focusing on is the defenders here and the attackers. They're going to start just outside the 18-yard box, so between 20 and 25 yards from goal. These 2 wide players here can start just on the 18-yard box, okay, with these players 10 yards further back, so you're talking about nearly 30 yards out. And then this will start 35 yards out, okay, and then go to 45, so you're going 45 yards of total depth. This can just be between 10 and 15 yards in the middle, okay, and then you want your wide players as wide as you can get on your pitch, okay, with then this winger in here, the inside player, so you're looking full-back winger just inside this player here. So the front 3 can switch over with the midfield 3 after a certain amount of time, or obviously depending on what age group you're working with, you want the players to rotate as much as they can. If you're working with older players and you want to kind of stick with your same players in the same positions, that's fine. So what it'll be is that the ball will get played into one of these players here. It can switch either side. It'll get played in, played across, played back, and then get played out. Okay, so these players can just rotate each time as well. Okay, so this player can go to where they play their pass. They can go to there, they can go to there, they can go to there. They can just move up one each time. So let's say we're going to go this way first. It's going to be played across, played back. Okay, and then what we're focusing on is they can either switch the ball into the winger. Okay, we kind of want the fullback to be the crosser in this situation, or they can play straight into the fullback. They combine with the winger quickly, and then they go to cross. So, but it can be played either side. So when this ball comes back, they can either open out and switch the play, or they can play straight through. So what we're going to do is we're going to play straight through. The winger comes in to receive it. Okay, these players can just rotate round each time to give them goes doing different types of passes. Fullback comes on the overlap, it gets played in. As this is happening, okay, defenders obviously trying to retreat to the box. And then what we're focusing on is our movement in our front 3. Okay, so we've got our player who's at the front post spinning off, player who's central taking up the front post area, okay, and then we can have our winger who's at the back post, okay, attacking that centre of the goal, but then that late run behind the back, because we're gonna be able to outnumber the opposition. So then what we're looking for is quality, okay. So then we might see that the striker in here who's central attacks the front post. This player attacks the back post, okay, but then this player stays high, which could mean that this centre-back stays high a little bit further, okay, and doesn't retreat, or they retreat and leave this ball here. So this is why it's important for the crosser to get their head up, okay, so that then if they see that this defender's dropped, they can fizz the ball into here, and then it's finished. Or if they see this defender stays high, they can loop it over for then this player to attack and score. As soon as that ball is finished, these players look to rotate, so the winger can go to there, fullback can go to there. As soon as that's done, okay, the fullback here will get the ball, okay. They will play into the winger, so the winger can either come on the inside to set outside, or come on the outside to set inside, okay. So if they come on the inside to set outside, we're looking for more of a whip ball into the box. So these players look to get themselves out quickly, okay, and then they can look to attack the box again to score. And again, if it goes the opposite way, so then the winger comes inside and sets it in there, looking for this player to come on and fizz a ball across the box to finish. Once that is over, again, the winger and the fullback can change over each time. We get the ball back to the start, the players reset, and then we can go again. So then what you'll say to the players is, okay, they don't have to then go the opposite way when they're doing this passing sequence. They can be the same, okay, but the players are just looking to play wide each time, and then once that one's finished, the opposite side goes. So you just need some footballs on this side, and these players rotating all the time. So again, we're looking for that quality into the box. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now moving into a small-sided game, which is focusing on trying to break through a small press or a compact unit to play into the attackers to then combine with the wide players and score. So in terms of the setup for this part of the session, okay, so in terms of the depth, in here we're going 25, in here we're going 10, and then in this area, okay, you can make it minimum 15 yards, okay, maximum again will be a 25-yard area. You can make it a 25-yard area if you have another goalkeeper, okay, and you can have both sides attacking in terms of they're both looking to score from across. In terms of the width, we're going to go 30 yards centrally, okay, and then the wider areas, okay, you can either increase the area centrally, or you could have the central area here and then a small gap before the wide area, or you can just increase it. Okay, so the minimum you want is 30 yards in here and then 10 yards either side, making it 50. Again, if you want to make it a little bit wider for the wide players, you can. So the Greens are going to be focusing on trying to win the ball back and score into here to swap over. The Blues are focusing on working the ball through. Okay, once they play into the attackers here, they're looking to play out quickly to the crosses, okay, who look to take it into space and then look to cross into that final third. It doesn't always have to be from across though. The ball could be received here and it can be a cut back to finish. So obviously crossing and finishing doesn't have to be you're just whipping balls in the box. That's why we're looking at cutbacks as well, and then making those late runs into the box and then obviously deeper balls in as well. So making certain runs to create space for others. So like we say, the Greens, okay, with this middle area in here, the Blues have to receive it in there before they go and attack, okay? So what the three Greens in here can do, because the two centre-backs are locked in here, when these two players get the ball, as if it's the centre-backs, okay, these centre-backs can use the yellow players to keep the ball, but it has to be one of these two players who play into the Blues through here, okay, so if they're playing through centrally. The Greens can send maybe one person in to go and press the ball, which then leaves them 2v3 in there, which can create more gaps for the Blues to play through, or they can stay 3v3, which makes it harder. So once these players are moving around, the ball might shuffle wide, come back in, it's harder to play through. So it depends what they want, because if they win the ball back, okay, you can say maybe 3 times they have to win the ball back and score in here to then swap over. It could be every time, okay, so maybe at first you can do it where it's more times when it's, to make it more difficult for them. But if the players are struggling to adapt to it, then you can change it and bring it down to 2 or even 1. So what they could do as well is send all 3 players in, okay, which means that the Blues are under pressure immediately. They'd have to look to use the wide players, and obviously we're not letting them play into there through the wide players to make it more difficult for the Blues, since they do have the overload, okay. Look to play through. As soon as that happens, what we're focusing on is these players showing energy, okay? So this player can open out and play across, they can play the ball across there. Once they've played it into space here, we're then thinking about attacks, okay? So attacking the goal frame. Okay, so the 2 players in here look to get themselves in a position to attack the cross, and then what we're focusing on is this third player can make that third man run to then score. Okay, so what we're focusing on is the striker here, okay, makes that front post run, but then they could look to pull out and let this player come in, ball gets fizzed in and finish. So that communication, okay, that awareness of the space around them, okay, positional awareness as well in relation to the ball, not being in the box too early though as well, so they're actually able to attack it and get a run on the defenders. If the goalkeeper saves it and they win the ball back, the Greens look to play into their front 3 here to try and score. So then the Blues in here will be locked into the maximum of this box. Again, they can look to press the ball, but they can only go back into this box. They can't come into this final third to win it back. If there's a goal either end, the Blues will start again with the ball. So it's coming into here. They might send 2 players into press, might leave 1 in here. They move the ball around quickly. The Blues, okay, the ball could come back in. They open out and there's a gap to play through. Gets played in to the yellow, who looks to start driving, okay. And then the centre-backs come across. This player can come in here, making that run in there. We get a player moving to the back post, and there's that cut back, okay, available for us to finish. So again, that quality on the final ball, our movement to receive, our timing of our movements in the box, and then the social aspects, okay, that communication and organisation within that front 3 in terms of where the runs are going to be made. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.